The first time Meng walked into our apartment, she asked my family for a 2 million yuan bride price. In return, she promised a villa in the city center and 10 million yuan in cash. My parents heard the word billionaire and stopped thinking. My brother Lin Kang looked at her as if she had already placed a crown on his head. In my previous life, I was the only person who questioned her story. I investigated the designer bag, the real estate company she claimed belonged to her family, and the people surrounding her. The truth was worse than I expected. Meng was not an Heiress. She was an experienced manipulator, working with a professional pig butchering fraud ring. I carried the evidence home because I still believed family meant something. My parents called me jealous and brainless. Lin Kang attacked me so violently that I suffered a traumatic brain injury. While I lay unconscious in the hospital, they pressed my fingerprints onto documents, mortgaged everything I owned, and used my life as collateral for his marriage. Then, Meng vanished before the wedding with every cent they had raised. Debt collectors seized the house. My parents, desperate to protect their precious son, practically handed me over to an old creditor to settle what they owed. With nowhere left to go and no one willing to see me as a person, I ended my own life. So, when I opened my eyes and heard Meng's sugary voice drifting through that cramped living room again, I understood exactly where I was. I had returned to the day Lin Kang first brought the fake Heiress home. In my first life, I tried to save them and died for it. This time I would not expose the trap. I would help them decorate it, widen it, and jump into it with both feet. Please, have some tea, uncle and auntie. Meng's sweet, carefully practiced voice drifted through the room. I blinked and took in the familiar, cramped living room. She sat demurely on our worn sofa, a counterfeit Channel bag bought online resting beside her. My parents smiled and bowed as they accepted tea from her, as though receiving an imperial decree. Oh Meng, you truly are a precious young lady from a noble family. Our Kang must have accumulated a lifetime of good fortune to meet you. My mother smiled so hard that the wrinkles around her eyes nearly disappeared. Lin Kang tilted his chin toward the ceiling, crossed one leg over the other, and sat there with the smug confidence of a man who already thought he belonged to the upper class. When he saw me standing motionless in my doorway, he immediately barked, "Lin Kang, are you blind? Your future sister-in-law is here. And you don't even know enough to cut up some fruit and bring it out. You spend all day buried in that pathetic company of yours. No wonder you'll never amount to anything." In my previous life, I had argued back and my parents had joined him in berating me. This time, I smiled as though I had finally understood my place. You're right, brother. My future sister-in-law is as beautiful as a fairy descended from heaven. I'll prepare the fruit immediately. I went to the kitchen, washed the expensive Shine Muscat grapes I had bought for myself, arranged them on a plate, and carried them to the table. Meng delicately picked up a grape and placed it in her mouth. A quick flash of triumph crossed her eyes. Actually, I came today not only to visit you, but also to discuss my marriage to Brother Kang. Meng lowered her head shyly. My family is in real estate. We have more assets than we could ever count. My parents say that when marrying off a daughter, it does not matter whether the groom's family is rich or poor. What matters is their attitude. Exactly, attitude is the most important thing, my father said, rubbing his hands together. We will treat you like a queen. My father said that to test the groom's sincerity, the bride price will be 2 million yuan. The money is only for appearances in front of both families' guests. On the wedding day, I will return every cent, along with a villa in the city center, and 10 million yuan in cash, as startup capital for Brother Kang. When she finished, the living room went silent. 2 million yuan. For an ordinary family living in an apartment of less than 80 square meters. It was an unimaginable sum. My parents' rosy faces went pale. Even if we emptied every account and searched every corner, We could not produce 100,000 yuan. Meng, isn't 2 million a little too much? Things have been tight for us lately. My mother said hesitantly, sweat beading on her forehead. Do you think I'm too expensive, auntie? Then I'll go home and tell my father to cancel the marriage. Wealthy young men are lining up to marry me. Meng pouted, picked up her fake channel bag, and made as if to leave. Lin Kang hurriedly grabbed her hand. Then he glared at our parents before fixing his greedy gaze on me. Dad. We can't let this marriage slip away. Lin Kang, your company has been doing well lately, hasn't it? Sell it. Then, borrow from your friends. That should be enough to raise 2 million yuan for me. My mother's eyes lit up at once. That's right, Lin Kang, you're a daughter. Sooner or later you'll marry into someone else's family. What is the point of keeping that company? Sell it and use the money for your brother's bride price. Once your brother becomes a powerful CIO, he will support you. What do you have to worry about? In my previous life. Those words had made me cry with frustration as I tried to explain that the company represented years of my blood and effort. I had even been foolish enough to investigate Ye Meng's identity, only to bring disaster upon myself. Looking back now, I realized I had been far too meddlesome. If they wanted to leap into a cesspit, why should I stop them? Stepped forward, took Ye Meng's ring-covered hand, and spoke with complete sincerity. Dad, what are you saying? My future sister-in-law is a wealthy heiress. How could a bride price of only 2 million yuan possibly be worthy of her? Everyone in the room froze. Lin Kang frowned at me, as though I were an alien. I continued pouring oil onto the fire. She's bringing a dowry of 10 million yuan. If we give only 2 million, outsiders will say our family is stingy and trying to profit from the bride's family. I think we should raise 3 million yuan. Only then can we show her the absolute respect she deserves. 3 million. My father cried, nearly toppling backward. 3 million, I nodded firmly. My company is worth only 3 or 400,000 yuan on the market. That is nowhere near enough. If you truly want brother to change his destiny, you must think bigger. If we sell this apartment quickly, we can get about 800,000. If we mortgage the ancestral home's deed in the countryside, we should get at least 500,000 more. As for the rest, you both have such excellent reputations that you can borrow from private lenders and underground credit companies. In a few days, when sister-in-law brings home 10 million yuan, we can repay the principal and interest in an instant. Meng's eyes lit up like headlights. A victim had volunteered an extra million yuan. What scammer would not be delighted? She quickly covered her mouth and smiled coyly. Little sister understands me perfectly. My father hates petty people more than anything. If your family can raise 3 million yuan, he will be so pleased that he might even add another 20 million to my dowry. 20 million. That enormous number destroyed the last shred of reason my parents possessed. Their greed had finally drowned out the last of their common sense by Ya Meng and me working together. My mother was so excited that she removed the jade bracelet from her wrist and stuffed it into Ye Meng's hand. My dear future daughter-in-law, it's settled. Our family will raise 3 million yuan for the bride price. I will give you the grandest wedding of the century this city has ever seen, she declared loudly. Lin Kang laughed in satisfaction and slapped my shoulder several times. Lin Kang, you finally learned to think about this family. See, as long as you listen to me, all of us will become rich together. Of course. Brother is heaven's chosen son, destined for a brilliant future. If I stay here, I'll only obstruct the favorable energy surrounding you and sister-in-law. I shrugged. Sounding perfectly reasonable. My company is facing an important financial inspection, so I need to stay there and deal with it. I might as well move out permanently. You can renovate my room into brother's bridal suite. Sister-in-law is accustomed to living in villas. She cannot be expected to endure cramped conditions. My parents were thrilled that I was volunteering to leave and surrender my room. They had always disliked me. And now that they believed they had found a golden daughter-in-law, I was nothing more than an unwanted burden. If you're moving out, leave your salary card here, my mother called just as I turned toward my room. Raising 3 million yuan will be difficult. You earn 10,000 yuan a month from your company. Give me the card so I can pay the deposit for your brother's wedding banquet. Lin Kang immediately joined in. That's right, you're his younger sister. Contributing the hotel deposit is only natural. Don't be an ungrateful wretch. I stopped and turned to look at my mother's and brother's greed, twisted faces. In my previous life, I had naively handed over all my savings and received nothing in return but brutal abuse. I pretended to search my handbag, then put on a troubled expression. The company froze my salary card this month. The inspection is extremely strict, and my personal accounts have also been temporarily frozen for reconciliation. I have only 500 yuan in cash left to survive on instant noodles. What kind of rotten company withholds an employee's salary? Lin Kang glared and cursed loudly. Yeah, Meng gently stroked his chest, speaking in the magnanimous tone of someone granting mercy. Brother Kang, don't make things difficult for your sister. A little pocket change is not worth arguing over. I'll put the hotel deposit on my credit card first. Once the bride price is paid, you can reimburse me. Hearing this, my parents adored her even more. They shot me contemptuous looks. Do you see that, Lin Kang? Look how generous your sister-in-law is. It's unlike a miser like you, who would squeeze water from a stone. Pack your things quickly and get out of my sight, my father snapped. Cess, I'll leave immediately. I wish all of you success in raising 3 million yuan and receiving your 10 million yuan villa as soon as possible. I lowered my head before they could see that I was trying not to smile, then went into my room. I pulled a suitcase from beneath the bed and quickly packed only the most important documents. My company's legal files and the original copy of my identity card. What I did not know was that, because I moved so quickly, I overlooked one extremely important detail. That mistake would create an unexpected and dramatic turn later. When I wheeled my suitcase toward the door, Meng was still painting dazzling fantasies of shopping trips to Bali and vacations in the Maldives. My family listened, utterly intoxicated. I did not spare them another glance. I walked out, drew a deep breath of free air, and stepped into the apartment lobby. There I called an acquaintance who worked in corporate mergers and acquisitions. That moment, I believed I had cut every thread connecting me to the Lin family. I was wrong. In my rush to leave, I had forgotten one old laptop under the bed. And that single mistake would soon place a 2 million yuan debt in my name. Mr. Zhang, how much can you get for my company if the transaction closes today? Yes, even a fire sale price is fine. My only condition is that the payment be transferred directly into my bank account in cleared funds. After a 30-minute meeting, I sold the company outright for 300,000 yuan, compared with the effort I had invested. The price was painfully low, but speed mattered more. I immediately transferred the full amount, together with my secret savings, into an overseas bank account I had opened in advance. Then, I went straight to the local administrative office. Using the contacts I had built and a complete set of documents, I completed an emergency separation of my household registration. I blocked every phone number belonging to my parents and Lin Kang, changed the name on all my social media accounts, and rented a luxury apartment with extremely strict security on the other side of the city. I settled into the upscale residential complex. I bought a new phone and created an anonymous social media account. Know your enemy and know yourself, and you will never be defeated. Although I had cut off direct contact, I still wanted to witness exactly how deeply that family would dig its own grave. Expected. The show began almost immediately. Only 3 days after I left, Lin Kang began posting a stream of ostentatious photographs. He showed himself touring a luxury development for his future marital home and having a candlelit dinner with Meng at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Every caption reeked of overbearing CIO fantasy, preparing a 3 million yuan bride price to welcome my princess home. A real man must have both a career and a woman worthy of him. I laughed until tears came to my eyes. They did not have 3 million yuan. To satisfy their greed and hollow pride, however, my parents acted with astonishing speed. I had paid an amateur private investigator, really just the neighborhood auntie from our old apartment complex, who loved gossip, to keep watch. The reports she sent were better than anything I could have imagined. My parents dumped their apartment for 800,000 yuan, 200,000 below market value, on the condition that the buyer take immediate possession. They then moved into a damp, miserable rental on the outskirts to save every possible cent. That was not enough. My father returned to the countryside and threw a public tantrum until his brothers surrendered the ancestral property documents. He mortgaged the deed for another 500,000 yuan. Even then, they had only raised bar million yuan, leaving an enormous shortfall. My mother swallowed her pride and begged relatives and friends for loans, but everyone knew our family's vanity and greed. Door after door closed in her face. With no other option, and under Meng's skillful encouragement, my parents turned to underground lenders. They borrowed another large sum at a vicious daily interest rate. Meng truly was a professional con artist. She did not seize the money at once. She knew how to bait the hook before taking the entire catch. Every day, she dressed in counterfeit luxury goods, visited expensive spas, and spent my parents' blood and sweat money like water in order to maintain her image as an Heiress. She continually fed Lin Kang impossible fantasies. Brother Kang. All my friends come from powerful families. On the day you present the bride price, your family must arrive in a luxury car. Otherwise, my father will lose face. If he gets angry, he might cancel the 10 million yuan dowry. At the mention of 10 million yuan, Lin Kang nodded like an addict desperate for his next dose. But all their available cash had been bundled and set aside for the bride price. Where would they find money for a luxury car? I was curious to see how they would solve that problem. Then, my carelessness in this life produced a potentially deadly mistake. One afternoon, I was sitting peacefully in a cafe, reviewing plans for a new company, when my phone rang. The call came from an unfamiliar number. Hello. Is this Ms. Lin Kang? We are calling from Taiyang Finance. The first installment on your 2 million yuan automobile loan is now due. You are required to make immediate payment. My hand stopped halfway to the cup, and I nearly spilled my coffee. Say 2 million yuan automobile loan. I had never bought a car. You have the wrong person. I have never taken out any such loan, I replied coldly. Lin, please stop pretending. The contract contains your signature, a copy of your identity card, and a guarantee confirmation. If you fail to pay, we will transfer the file to our special collections department. You will bear the consequences yourself. The employee's hostile threat made my heart skip a beat. I demanded that he send me a digital copy of the contract for verification. The moment I opened the file, my expression darkened. The agreement concerned the purchase of a bright red Porsche valued at 2 million yuan. The named borrower was me. Signature at the bottom was a crude forgery, but it closely resembled my handwriting. Worse, the file included crisp color scans of both sides of my identity card. How was that possible? I had taken the original card with me when I left. My mind raced through every detail. Then I remembered. In my haste that night, I had left an old laptop with a broken screen under my bed. Hard drive contained a folder of scanned identity documents from when I established my former company. Lin Kang must have searched my room, found the laptop, and recovered the scans. With Meng's sophisticated criminal network, Z could easily connect him to a black market finance company whose loan approval required only clean personal data and a forged signature. The funds could then be disbursed directly to a dealership. They had used my identity to obtain a predatory loan and acquire the Porsche for their fantasy wedding. An ordinary person, confronted with a 2 million yuan debt that had fallen from the sky, would have panicked, screamed, called the family to demand answers, or rushed to the police station in terror. I was different. After the first shock passed, I almost smiled. So, they wanted to play at identity theft. They wanted to use Lin Kang's name as a shield against their debts. Fine. I would teach them what it meant to be destroyed by their own weapon. I opened my new laptop. Drawing on technical skills honed over many years, I began tracing the transaction. I penetrated Taiyang Finance's online portal and confirmed that it was an underground lender disguised as a legitimate finance company. Its review process was riddled with security gaps. I downloaded the network addresses, access history, and evidence, showing that the loan application had been submitted from an unfamiliar mobile device, matching the model Lin Kang used. Then, I discovered that the dealership involved was closely linked to a shell company, legally represented by Meng. It was a complete money laundering loop. Meng had used my identity to borrow from Taiyang Finance. The money was transferred to her own dealership. The car delivered to Lin Kang was merely a rental used for appearances, while the actual 2 million yuan flowed into her pocket. She intended to profit from both ends. It was clever. It also gave me everything I needed to destroy the scheme. I did not waste a single call on Lin Kang or my parents. Why listen to their shameless excuses and demands that I shoulder my brother's debt? They could keep dreaming. I saved all the digital evidence in an encrypted folder. Then, I drafted an anonymous report and sent it directly to the Economic Crime Investigation Hotline. The allegation was clear and meticulously organized. An identity theft and fraud ring involving forged signatures, falsified documents, and unlawful appropriation of property. I attached Meng's records and the fraudulent loan contract, then pressed send. But that alone was not satisfying enough. The law required time to investigate. I wanted to see that brainless family suffer the collapse of its fantasy immediately. I accessed a hidden online forum, frequented by debt collection gangs and underworld enforcers. Through several cross-searches, I identified the black credit group that had lent money to my parents. I also found the contact information for Taiyang Finance's collections team. Using a spoofed number, I sent both groups the same short message. The Lin family plans to flee tomorrow. They have no ability to repay. The Porsche was obtained through fraudulent documents and is about to be seized by the police. Attached are the vehicle's real-time location and the address of the suburban rental, where they are hiding. As soon as the message went out, I could picture tattooed collectors exploding with rage, grabbing metal bars, and racing through the night on motorcycles. Then, like that hated nothing more than a debtor, who tried to deceive them and run. I gently closed my laptop and stretched. My small mistake had unexpectedly become the perfect lever to accelerate my family's destruction. By then, the bride price ceremony was less than a day away. My parents thought they were one banquet away from becoming rich. Lin Kang thought he was about to enter high society. Meng was preparing to disappear, and two groups of collectors were already heading toward the same hotel. That moment, Lin Kang posted another update. The photograph showed him beside the bright red Porsche, outside the city's most luxurious banquet hotel. Behind him, staff hurried to arrange imported flowers for the bride price ceremony. The following day, everything is ready. The 3 million yuan bride price is locked safely away. Tomorrow I will prove to the world that I am the most powerful man alive. His words were full of arrogance and fantasy. In the comments, my mother showered him with hearts and praise. Then took another swipe at me. My precious son is the most capable man in the world. That unfilial daughter we drove out must be so jealous her eyes are about to burst. Just wait. Tomorrow, when we receive the 10 million yuan dowry, I will make every relative stare in envy. I let out a quiet laugh and slid my finger across the screen. They were completely drunk on illusion, unaware that the collapse had already begun. The 3 million yuan stacked in cash would be the perfect target for Meng's final disappearing act. The luxury car outside would become an iron cage tying Lin Kang to undeniable criminal evidence. Tomorrow was the bride price ceremony. My parents were counting the minutes until they could call billionaires their in-laws. Lin Kang was imagining himself entering a mansion. Meng was calculating the seconds until she could move 3 million yuan overseas. Outside the door, violent collectors were sharpening their knives. I opened my wardrobe and carefully selected the brightest red evening gown I owned. It had been a long time since I attended a party. As the only relative they had discarded and exploited, how could I possibly miss the most important day of my brother's life? The city's most prestigious wedding hotel blazed with crystal light. The parking area was crowded with luxury vehicles. But the bright red Porsche positioned directly before the main entrance drew the most attention. It was the very car Lin Kang and Meng had obtained with a predatory loan in my name. I stepped out of a taxi, wearing a daring red evening gown, designer heels, voluminous curls, and vivid crimson lipstick. I looked calm, expensive, and completely out of place among the people who had thrown me away. The moment I entered the banquet hall, noisy laughter washed over me. My parents stood at the center in cheaply tailored clothes, struggling to appear refined. Around them clustered the relatives who had refused to lend them money, but had now returned to flatter them. You two are truly blessed, a distant aunt gushed. Kang is marrying a wealthy heiress. From now on, you can enjoy wealth without lifting a finger. My mother smiled until her eyes disappeared and raised her chin. It is not merely good fortune. My son is talented and ambitious. That is why her family chose him. When my daughter-in-law brings the 10 million yuan dowry later, I will give everyone here a red envelope for luck. My father stood beside her, chest puffed with pride, pointing at 3 open suitcases on the banquet table. Inside, 3 million yuan in cash lay neatly stacked, representing every home, deed, loan, and relationship they had sacrificed to greed. It represented the apartment they had sold, the ancestral land they had mortgaged, and the usurious loans they had taken regardless of consequence. I curled my lips and walked directly toward the main table. The click of my heels on marble drew every eye. Lin Kang stood beside Meng. The instant he saw me, his smile stiffened. What are you doing here? Did you come to beg me for pocket change? He sneered, pointing at my face. My parents' expressions changed just as quickly. My mother rushed forward and swept me from head to toe with contempt. You unfilial wretch. You moved out, so don't come back and cause trouble. Those clothes must be rented so you can show off. Low-class woman like you has no right to sit at the same table as my golden daughter-in-law. Security, throw her out. Every gaze in the hall turned toward me, and whispers spread through the crowd. In my previous life, such public humiliation would have broken me. I would have cried and desperately tried to explain myself. So, now my heart was sheathed in iron. I smiled, took a thin red envelope from my handbag, and tossed it onto the pile of 3 million yuan. What a strange thing to say, today is brother's happy day. As his sister, of course I came to offer my blessing. There are 200 yuan inside. Consider it my small gift to congratulate brother Kang on entering the world of the elite. The 200 yuan envelope looked almost comical atop the mountain of cash. Lin Kang's face turned scarlet. He raised his hand and lunged as if to strike me. You little bitch. How dare you humiliate me? Brother Kang, stop. Yeah, Meng hurriedly wrapped herself around his arm, her voice soft and cloying. Today is a joyful occasion. Don't lower yourself by arguing with your sister. She must be struggling so badly that she is no longer thinking clearly. I don't mind. Then, she turned toward me, triumph shining in her eyes. Lin Kang. If life is difficult for you, once my father brings the 10 million yuan dowry, I will give you a few tens of thousands as spending money. You're a woman. There is no reason to make yourself suffer out of stubborn pride. True Heiress really is different, so generous and compassionate. I applauded, my smile deepening. Brother Kang, you must hold tightly to such a wonderful bride. I wish the two of you eternal devotion. May you remain bound together for life after life. My father snorted and turned away from me. Meng. Our family has prepared every cent of the 3 million yuan bride price. Call your parents and ask them to bring the dowry. The guests have been waiting a long time. Meng glanced at the 3 suitcases. Her throat shifted. The greed in her eyes could not escape me. She smiled shyly. My parents are coming by private jet. They should reach the hotel in about 15 minutes. Please don't worry. As for the bride price, I'll take it to the VIP room and lock it in the safe. I also need to touch up my makeup so I can greet my parents properly. Of course. It isn't safe to leave so much money lying around. Kang, carry the suitcases into the VIP room for your wife, my mother urged. Yeah. Meng waved her hand at once. That won't be necessary. Brother Kang must stay and entertain the guests. We should not offend any relatives. The VIP room is right behind the stage, and the security at a 5-star hotel is excellent. There is nothing to worry about. She called over 2 hotel attendants and had them wheel all 3 suitcases toward the VIP waiting area. Swindler disappeared behind the heavy wooden door, carrying the entire hope, lifeblood, and future of my foolish family with her. I leisurely pulled out a chair, sat down, and ordered a glass of red wine. 10 minutes passed. The hall remained noisy and festive. All I had to do was wait. The cash was in the room. The fraud was already documented. And Meng had an exit waiting behind the stage. Every person in that hall believed the celebration was beginning. In reality, the countdown had almost reached 0. 20 minutes passed. My parents began glancing toward the entrance. Apparently the billionaire's private jet had encountered traffic. 30 minutes passed. Restlessness became unmistakable on Lin Kang's face. He paced before the stage, checking his watch again and again. The relatives stopped eating and began whispering. Sang, go into the VIP room and see whether Meng has finished her makeup. Why is she taking so long? My mother urged, sweat pouring down her face. She must be changing into another gown. Calm down, Mom. People of her status care about ceremony, Lin Kang said, trying to preserve the last scraps of his dignity, though his hands were trembling. He pulled out his phone and called her. I took a slow sip of wine and watched coldly. The subscriber you have dialed is currently unavailable. The automated message rang through the suddenly silent hall. My father's face turned ashen. He stumbled forward, snatched the phone and called again and again. Only dead silence answered. Lin Kang panicked. He rushed into the VIP waiting room. Few seconds later, a heart-rending scream erupted. Where is she? The entire hall descended into chaos. My parents ran after him. The VIP room was empty. A rear window stood wide open onto a narrow alley behind the hotel. The 3 suitcases, containing 3 million yuan, had vanished without a trace. Meng's designer coat lay carelessly abandoned on a chair. My mother collapsed to the floor, eyes rolling back as foam gathered at her lips. My father clutched his chest and gasped as though his heart might stop. Lin Kang tore at his hair and smashed furniture like a maddened beast. Impossible. Meng could never deceive me. She must have been kidnapped. Call the police. Call them now. The instant he finished shouting, the main doors of the banquet hall were kicked inward with tremendous force. The hinges snapped and clattered across the marble floor. More than 20 tattooed, hard-faced men stormed in carrying metal pipes and clubs. Their murderous presence swept through the room. They overturned tables and chairs, forming a clear passage down the center. The guests screamed, crawled beneath tables, or pressed themselves into corners. A bald man, wearing a gold chain as thick as a thumb, stepped forward. He brought an iron bar down on a glass tabletop, shattering it. "Where's that dog Lin Kang? Get out here!" His roar shook the hall. Hearing his name, Lin Kang lost every trace of color. He emerged from the VIP room trembling so badly that his knees knocked together. My father struggled upright and stood in front of him. "Who are you? We don't know you. This hotel has security, don't cause trouble." The bald man sneered. With a flick of his hand, one of his men stepped forward and slapped my father so hard that he spun to the floor, blood spilling from his mouth. "Open your worthless eyes and look at me. I'm Brother Long from Taiyang Finance. Your son. And that bitch Ye Meng used forged documents to borrow 2 million yuan from my company for the Porsche parked outside. Today, I came to recover the asset and settle the other debt your family owes my people." Each sentence struck my family like a blade. My father collapsed completely. My mother had just regained consciousness. At the mention of the enormous debt, she fainted again. "Brother Long, you've made a mistake," Lin Kang babbled. "That car was bought in my sister's name. Her name is Lin Kang. She's the woman in the red dress sitting over there. Collect from her. It has nothing to do with me." Cowardice had stripped him of all shame. He pointed directly at me and pushed every crime onto his own sister. All eyes turned toward me. But the bald man did not even bother to look. He charged at Lin Kang, seized him by the collar, lifted him off the floor, and slammed him down. "Do you think I'm an idiot? Your sister already reported you to the police and submitted evidence that you and Ya Meng forged her signature and stole her identity. Investigators froze the car this morning. As for Ya Meng, she took your 3 million yuan bride price and disappeared." The words shattered what remained of Lin Kang's fantasy. His eyes bulged, and his mouth hung open. The 3 million yuan bride price was gone. Nearly 2 million yuan in underworld debt hung over his head. Charges for document forgery and fraud waited ahead. CIO's halo. The 10 million yuan villa, the Heiress, every dream shattered like a soap bubble. So, it can't be. Meng truly loves me. Give me my money back. Lin Kang went mad, struggling and sobbing like a child. Brother Long did not waste words. He lifted his chin. His men immediately rushed forward and delivered a violent health check with their boots. Sounds of blows, breaking furniture, and Lin Kang's screams filled the flower-decorated hall. My father tried to save his son and was kicked into a corner. The relatives who had flattered them minutes earlier fled through the side exits, cursing my family as swindlers and complaining that they had dragged everyone else into trouble. Stood, smoothed the skirt of my red gown, and carried my wine toward Lin Kang, who lay flattened on the floor like a beaten stray dog. He looked up at me through blood and tears, stretching out a shaking hand. "Lin Kang, save me. Please save me. Call the police. Use your money to pay them." I looked down and gave him the brightest smile of my life. I bent close to his ear and spoke as gently as a lullaby. "Save you. Brother Kang, when you beat me until I suffered a traumatic brain injury, did you think of saving me? When you and our parents mortgaged my property to bring that swindler home, did any of you think of saving me? 3 million yuan in cash, plus 2 million yuan in debt, 5 million yuan for a dream of marrying into wealth. Do you think the price was worth it?" Lin Kang's eyes widened in horror. Something in my cold gaze finally made him understand. From urging them to raise 3 million yuan to drawing the collectors here, my hand had guided the entire collapse. You're a demon, Give my money back. He screamed and tried to lunge at me. But one of Brother Long's men planted a boot on his back and pinned him to the cold floor. I straightened and poured the remaining wine over his face. The red liquid ran like blood across his bruises. Happy wedding, brother. You chose this road. Take your time walking it. I turned and walked confidently toward the main entrance. Behind me, the collectors continued smashing property and issuing threats. My mother's sobs, my father's groans, and Lin Kang's helpless screams blended into a magnificent symphony. It was called immediate retribution. Not one collector tried to stop me. They knew I had provided the tip, and legally I was entirely clean. I stepped out of the hotel and into the city's glittering night. The moment I left the lobby, police sirens shrieked in the distance. Official vehicles, flashing red and blue, raced up and stopped before the entrance. Dozens of officers poured into the banquet hall, restrained the gang members, and secured the scene. I stood in a shadowed corner and calmly hailed a taxi. Through the hotel's glass wall, I saw Brother Long drop his iron pipe and raise both hands, though he continued glaring murderously at Lin Kang. My brother, who had strutted like a tyrannical CIO only an hour earlier, now lay curled on the floor, bruised and weeping, like a beaten stray. My parents clung to each other in a corner, trembling. I gave the driver the address of my luxury complex. That night would certainly be sleepless for the Lin family, but also unforgettable. At the police station, harsh fluorescent light fell over the devastated faces of my parents and brother. They huddled on a waiting bench, clothes disordered and stained with dirt and dried blood. An investigator dropped a thick file onto the desk and looked sternly at Lin Kang. Look carefully. The woman you knew as Meng is actually named Zhang Quhua. She is a key member of a transnational pig butchering fraud ring currently wanted by the police. Her channel bag was counterfeit. Her identity as a real estate heiress was a scripted role. Everything was designed to exploit the greed of status, obsessed people, like your family. Lin Kang clutched his head and screamed. No. You are mistaken. Meng really is a wealthy young lady. She said she would bring me a 10 million yuan dowry today and buy me a villa. How could she be a swindler? Stop fantasizing. The officer struck the desk, his sharp voice cutting through Lin Kang's delusion. According to the hotel's security footage and the city's traffic camera network, accomplices were waiting in the rear alley when she brought the 3 suitcases into the VIP room. The 3 million yuan was removed and transferred through an overseas virtual money laundering system in less than 5 minutes. Even if Zhang Quhui is arrested, that money has already disappeared. You may never recover a cent. The news struck my parents like lightning. My mother threw back her head, released an animal howl, and collapsed onto the floor. She pounded the tiles with both hands and wailed. 7 above. My money, the money from my apartment, the ancestral land, that vicious woman ruined our whole family. Give it back. Who will give our money back? My father was bloodless. He clutched the left side of his chest and breathed in violent gasps. The 3 million yuan bride price was gone. Nearly 2 million yuan in underworld debt remained. They had no house, no land, and no future. They had reached the bottom of despair. Officer, save us, my father begged, crawling forward and gripping the leg of the desk. Taiyang's loan sharks will kill my son. We have temporarily detained the men who caused the disturbance and are investigating illegal lending. However, the money you voluntarily borrowed is a civil debt. We cannot erase it. Furthermore, Lin Kang is now a suspect in another case. The officer produced the anonymous report I had submitted together with the fraudulent Porsche loan file. Lin Kang, do you admit that you conspired with Zhang Quhua to steal your sister Lin King's personal information and forge her signature in order to fraudulently obtain a 2 million yuan loan? The named borrower has provided evidence establishing her absence and has requested that criminal charges be filed for document forgery and fraud. Lin Kang shook like a leaf. Only then did he understand that the trap he had dug for me had become a noose around his own neck. He sobbed, blamed everything on Meng, and swore that he was merely another victim. But the documentary evidence was undeniable. Neither stupidity nor greed could conceal his actions from the law. Because the authorities did not yet have sufficient grounds for immediate detention, and because they wanted him available while expanding the investigation into the fraud ring. Lin Kang was released pending trial, under a travel restriction. The three members of the Lin family stumbled out of the station at dawn. They had survived the banquet. But survival was not the same as escape. The money was gone. The debts remained, and Lin Kang was now trapped between criminals on one side and the law on the other. Cold drizzle struck their exhausted, aged faces. They had no home and no money. More frightening still, a black pickup truck waited across the road. The window lowered, revealing several of Brother Long's brutal-looking men. They did not dare create a disturbance outside the police station. But they watched Lin Kang, like prey waiting for slaughter. The one man drew a finger across his throat. Sang. If you don't cough up the money, Brother Long says he'll break every bone in your body. Then Lin Kang wet himself in terror. Under the threat of death, their debased survival instincts reawakened. They remembered me, the daughter they had despised, discarded, and ordered to sell her company. In their eyes, I had become their only lifeline. I had sold my business and still had money. I was also the complainant. If I withdrew the report and paid the debt, Lin Kang might survive. They rushed to a public telephone booth. My father searched his pockets for his last coins and dialed my number with shaking hands. They had called dozens of times during the night, but I had blocked them all. This time, they borrowed a stranger's phone. That morning, I sat in a glass conference room at a prospective partner's company, wearing a perfectly tailored business suit and sipping black coffee without sugar. Negotiations over a new technology platform were progressing smoothly. My phone vibrated with an unfamiliar number. One glance was enough. Instinct told me who was calling. I could have declined. But I wanted to hear the music of people struggling at the bottom of the abyss. I apologized to the other participants and answered leisurely. Hello. Who is this? Lin Kang. It's me, your father. My father's hoarse, imperious shout burst from the receiver. Even after falling into ruin, he still spoke like a patriarch issuing commands to a servant. Some natures never change. I gave a quiet laugh and deliberately switched on the speakerphone. I wanted every educated professional in that room to hear the face of a rotten family. So Mr. Lin, why are you calling me? Did Brother Kang's wedding of the century go well? How many tens of millions did his wealthy bride bring as a dowry? My voice stayed pleasant, which only made each word sting more. Shut up, you unfilial bitch. How dare you mock me? He gasped with fury. I order you to bring every cent from the sale of your company to the central police station and use it to help Kang. Then, meet the investigators and withdraw your complaint about the car. Tell them family members merely borrowed each other's documents. Do you understand? I laughed aloud. The clear sound echoed through the conference room, startling several partners. Mr. Lin, are you hallucinating or has senility returned? What gives you the right to order me? I am your father. You are a member of the Lin family. Your brother is in danger, and the underworld is hunting him. His sister. You have a duty to save him. Are you going to watch him die before you're satisfied? Even after everything, his logic had not changed. Then, my mother cut in, her fake sobs trembling through the line. Seeing, my daughter, I'm begging you. Your brother was deceived by Meng. She stole 3 million yuan and ran away. We have nowhere to sleep and nothing to eat. How can you watch your own family die? We are blood relatives. Blood relatives. I repeated the phrase, and my voice turned colder than ancient ice. When you forced me to surrender my room, sell my company, and leave the house, why did no one mention blood? When Lin Kang beat me half to death to protect that swindler, why did no one speak of family? I drew a slow breath and cast aside the last useless trace of emotion. Listen carefully. First, I separated my household registration and legally established myself as an independent citizen. I have no obligation to pay debts created by your greed and stupidity. Second, Lin Kang stole my identity and forged my signature to obtain a predatory loan. That is a crime. I will never withdraw the complaint. He committed it, so he will bear the consequences. Whether he spends years in prison or has his legs broken by collectors is his own karma. Lin Kang. You animal, aren't you afraid I'll die in front of you? My father screamed, pounding the telephone booth. Lin Kang snatched the receiver and began sobbing. Sister, please. I was wrong. I'll kneel and beg forgiveness. Save me, those men are across the road. They will kill me. Then, take your time enjoying it, Mr. Overbearing CIO. You created your dream of marrying into wealth, so pay its price yourself. Never call this number again. Goodbye. I ended the call without another second of hesitation and permanently blocked calls from unknown numbers. Silence filled the conference room. Everyone looked at me with a mixture of shock and understanding. Smiled, straightened the collar of my suit, and returned to a calm professional manner. My apologies for that small personal interruption. Shall we continue discussing the third quarter return on investment? To me, that family was now only a heap of garbage swept from my life. My response was not blind hatred. It was an assertion of boundaries. I was not a saintly heroine from a melodramatic romance, prepared to sacrifice herself and forgive those who had driven her to death. I was a businesswoman who understood costs and returns, who struck back when cornered, and who cut away malignant growths before they could spread. The drizzle fell steadily around the public telephone booth, making the scene even more desolate. When I hung up, the Lin family's last fragile thread of hope snapped. The black pickup truck rolled forward and stopped hard at the curb. 4 large, heavily tattooed men climbed out. Without a word, they seized Lin Kang by the collar and dragged him into a dark, damp-smelling alley. Sam, Dad. Save me. Lin Kang screamed in despair, clawing at the asphalt until his fingers bled. My parents stood rooted to the spot, shaking violently. They watched their precious son being dragged away, but neither dared move or call for help. Cowardice and terror, in the face of gleaming blades, crushed the parental love they had always preached. A sharp crack split the silence of the alley. Then came Lin Kang's scream, shrill as an animal being slaughtered. Brother, Long sends his regards to your right leg. Your family has 1 week. If you don't produce the money, next time, we'll take the other leg. One of the men spat on the ground, delivered the warning, and drove away with the others. See. Only then did my parents stagger into the alley. Lin Kang lay curled in muddy water, clutching his right leg, which had been broken and bent at a sickening angle. In this life, the domineering CIO and heaven's chosen son of my parents' imagination had officially become disabled. Over the following days, retribution struck the family with terrifying speed. They could not afford proper surgery. So Lin Kang's leg was crudely splinted at a small clinic. Mild tissue death followed, and he was left with a permanent limp. Their miserable suburban rental expelled them as well. Debt collectors came every day to throw red paint and foul-smelling waste at the door. Relatives, who had crowded around them at the wedding, now treated the Lin family like plague. They blocked their numbers, locked their doors, and even released dogs whenever my parents appeared to beg for money. Homeless and penniless, the 3 people who once dreamed of entering high society ended up beneath a crumbling overpass. They scavenged through trash-collected scrap and fought stray dogs for moldy pieces of bread. Desperation bred resentment. My father once a proud patriarch, became a ruined drunk. He collected half-empty bottles discarded by strangers, drank himself senseless, and then beat my mother. This is all your fault, you stupid woman. You handed that jade bracelet to the swindler, and cursed this family. Give me back the ancestral land. He cursed, and slapped her face first into a pile of refuse. The mother, hair tangled and clothes torn and stinking, fought back by clawing his face. You blame me. Who helped Kang force King to sell her company? Who begged loan sharks for money? You called yourself the head of the family. Yet you were stupid enough to let a cheap con artist lead you by the nose and steal 3 million yuan. Lin Kang sat in a corner, holding his lame leg, his eyes dull and empty. He no longer cursed Meng, because he knew it would change nothing. Instead, he blamed the parents who had worshipped him. Why did you give birth to me if you couldn't provide for me? If you had actually been rich, I would never have needed to show off. Everything is your fault. You ruined my life. The words of their precious son pierced them like knives. My parents covered their faces and wailed with regret. But there is no medicine for regret. Their bottomless greed had led them onto a road from which there was no return. After a month of hiding like sewer rats, while collectors hunted them, survival drove them to seek me again. Somehow, they learned the address of my upscale residential complex. That day, rain poured in sheets. I was in my home office reviewing the first month's financial report from my new venture. Profits had grown beyond expectations, leaving me in an excellent mood. The internal phone rang from the security station. Lin. 3 people who appear to be beggars are causing a disturbance at the gate. They claim to be your parents and brother and insist on entering. Would you like us to call the police? The guard's voice was polite. I smiled faintly. At last. They had arrived. Months earlier. They had ordered me out of their home because they thought I had no value. Now, they were kneeling outside mine, hoping the daughter they had discarded would buy back the life they had destroyed themselves. For the final curtain of this melodrama, I wanted to end the performance with my own hand. There is no need to call the police. I will handle it personally. I rose, changed into an elegant black dress, added a designer coat, and stepped into pointed high heels. Holding a brilliant red umbrella, I walked through the lobby toward the main gate. Sight before me was revolting. My parents and Lin Kang knelt in the mud while rain drenched them. Their clothes were filthy and foul-smelling. When my mother saw me looking beautiful and refined everything, they were not jealousy flashed in her eyes. She quickly suppressed it and replaced it with a pitiful expression. Seeing my own daughter, I know I was wrong. Please let your parents inside out of the rain. We haven't eaten a proper meal in days. We're starving to death, she cried, and crawled toward the iron fence, extending a skeletal hand toward the hem of my dress. Step back. My gaze perfectly calm. Security guards moved forward and pushed her away with rubber batons. Madam, you have mistaken me for someone else. I have no mother who would sign papers cutting off her daughter merely to flatter a fraud. I have no mother who encouraged her son to crack his sister's skull and steal her assets. My father raised his head. A large wound on his forehead, apparently left by the collectors, still seeped blood. He attempted to bind me with his familiar moral hypocrisy. Lin Kang, no matter what I did wrong, I gave you life. Blood cannot be severed. You live in luxury, while your parents die in the street. Aren't you afraid people will call you an animal and an unfilial daughter? I laughed loudly, the sound rising above the rain. People. The video of loan sharks destroying your wedding has been trending online for days. Everyone is calling you greedy, vain fools who walked willingly into a trap. I am the victim whose identity you stole. I moved out and completed the legal separation of my household. Your hypocrisy has no power over me. Lin Kang dragged his damaged leg forward, sobbing as he struck his forehead against the muddy ground. Sister, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. You're so capable. So you must have money. Lend me only 2 million yuan. I'll repay the collectors. Otherwise, they'll kill me. I promise I'll work like an ox or a horse to repay you for the rest of my life. The enemy, who had beaten me to death in my previous life, now lay at my feet, ready to lick my shoes. Satisfaction surged through my chest. A conventional romance heroine might have softened, written a check, and forgiven the family so they could be redeemed. I did not. I had returned from death. My heart had long since turned to stone. Work, like an ox or a horse. What use is a disabled identity thief and fraudster like you? I looked down at him with contempt. Have you forgotten that you're still out on bail? For forging loan documents and fraudulently obtaining 2 million yuan. You will eventually spend years counting the bars of a prison cell. The collectors won't need to kill you. The law will dispose of you for them. Lin Kang's face went gray. He had no answer. He finally understood that my ruthlessness had no limit. When my mother realized that pleading would not move me, her true nature burst out. She sprang up and pointed at my face. You vicious bitch. You refuse to save your own family. Retribution will come for you. Do you think you can escape us? I'll tell everyone what you are. I'll go to your company and create a scene. I'll destroy your reputation so no man will ever marry you. Go ahead. I shrugged and slowly turned the red umbrella. First, you would have to cross this complex's security line or discover where my company is located. But let me warn you, I have retained a top legal team. Any harassment, defamation, or demand for money will be prosecuted as extortion. Then, not only Lin Kang, but both of you may receive free state accommodation. There will be a roof and 3 meals a day. It suits your current homelessness rather well. That was enough to strip away the last of their courage. My parents shook, and no longer dared voice another threat. At last, they understood that the daughter they had despised and trampled upon had become a mountain they could never cross. The game is over. No one escapes the consequences of their own choices. Enjoy the billionaire life you fought so hard to buy. I left them with those words and turned away. My heels struck a steady rhythm against the stone as rain poured around me. Behind the gate, 3 voices rose in miserable, ghost-like wails. This time, I walked away without looking back once. Several months later, when everything had grown quiet, I happened across a small report in the legal news section. Driven by hunger and cornered by creditors, Lin Kang had broken into a supermarket to steal expensive merchandise. He was caught in the act. Because he had committed the offense while awaiting trial for the earlier document forgery and fraud case. The repeat crime sent him directly into custody, with one offense stacked upon another. The former would-be CIO received a 15-year prison sentence. My parents collapsed completely after the son, who was supposed to carry on the family line, went to prison. With no money, no hope, and failing health, they deteriorated rapidly. I heard that my father suffered a stroke while sleeping beneath an overpass and became paralyzed on one side. My mother wandered the streets collecting recyclables, half lucid and half mad, always muttering about a 10 million yuan villa and her wealthy daughter-in-law. They drifted through each day, despised by society, waiting for death to release them. As for Meng, or rather, Zhang Qiuhua, the law had taken its time. But it had not forgotten her. During a cross-border crackdown on high-tech crime, she and the pig-butchering fraud ring were captured. Their assets were confiscated, and a life sentence awaited her. Everyone who had destroyed my first life finally faced the consequences of their own choices. I turned off my computer and leaned back in the soft leather chair of my executive office on the highest floor of a financial tower. Steam rose from a fresh cup of coffee, filling the room with its aroma. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, brilliant sunlight spread across the thriving city. My new company was flourishing. Without a toxic family binding my wings, without parasites draining everything I built, I was free to rise into a sky that belonged to me alone. Being reborn had given me more than a chance for revenge. Its real value was teaching me what my life was worth. I learned to walk away from counterfeit love, begin again, and build a future no one could steal from me. In this life, I would live for myself, and for the parents who measured my worth by what they could take, not for the brother who saw me as a wallet, a shield, and a sacrifice, and never again for the false idea that sharing blood meant accepting cruelty. I had my company, my freedom, and a future built with my own hands. No one could mortgage it, forge it, or trade it away. For the first time, my life truly belonged to me, and I was living it brilliantly.